Hey, look out. It's Faith Talk Live. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
Look what we did, Dan. We got another Aussie on the show.
You can never have too many Aussies.
I know.
mean, come on.
It's Pastor Ashley Evans. Pastor, how are you?
I'm doing great, guys. Thank you so much for inviting us on. I hope you can have a good translator and you can understand what I'm saying.
We speak Australian. It's okay.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt for years, right? Because you've been here for a while, people will stop and say, oh, please talk. Please talk.
And what will they do exactly what you just did, which is talk in a British accent.
In a British accent, yeah.
Right.
Or they say, throw another shrimp on the barbie.
Yeah.
That's not a knife. That's a knife.
Yeah,
That's the only Australian that people
And the
know
wonderful
here.
thing for us is this has been good for our self-image because our accent, we reckon, but anyway, we're glad that Americans like it because we don't like it. So it's good to hear.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Pastor Ashley Evans is a global senior pastor of Influencers Church Global. I had a chance to talk with Ashley. What's it been? 8 years ago, and this was right after you planted Gwinnett, and you had the staff in the house, and you guys were going gangbusters then. Now, listen to this. You know this already, so I'm just preaching to the choir, Pastor. We've got Gwinnett, Cumming, Kennesaw, Alpharetta, and then you go back and forth to still the church that you planted years ago there is it in Sydney? Where is it in
Adelaide. Adelaide is the southern city.
Yeah. So you and Jane don't know when to stop, do you?
No, we just feel like we're kind of following in the footsteps of, grandparents who at the age of 55 moved from being missionaries in India for 30 years to Papua New Guinea, so from dry, dusty to Georgia weather, but even worse. And my dad, when I started the political party I started back in 2001, I got him elected as a senator. So he went from retirement to being a senator in the parliament. So I remember telling him I was leaving, and he said, he was crying, and I said, well, I'm blaming you, blaming my grandfather, blaming the family lineage,
Yeah.
It's also in your brother, which has he and his wife have Planet Shakers. It's Russell and Samantha, or Sam. Yes. And Planet Shakers have been around for a long time. Well, we appreciate what you do. I follow you a bit, and I see how you guys
not in a stalking way, though, just following.
Not in your car. That's
maybe, yeah. But I love what you guys do. The model that you do, obviously, of church, it's similar to the church that I go to on staff with, but also the way that you guys plant churches. Years ago, I was sent out, and it was me and my wife, and that was it. And we grew that thing as far as we could to about 150, and we plumb tuckered out. That's what you say in the South when you burn out.
Right. Yeah.
But you guys have this, I love the model. You take, 200 or 300 people, you got worship people, you got servers, you got kids, boom, in a city, and you've already got a running church. How did you get that idea? That's brilliant.
Well, thank you. I don't think I probably wasn't the first one to come up with it, but I think that, I obviously grew up in an environment of a church planting movement, and that's how we did it back in those days. I was one of the national directors of this movement, and it was pretty much find out who's willing, send them out, and good luck, everybody. Hope you make it. And so having seen that wasn't the most effective way to do church, we just decided that this idea of birthing churches and sending as many people into a core team as we can to be there from the beginning would be the way to go. And so, it's had some fantastic outcomes. It's not always fantastic outcomes, but it's been wonderful to see despite the various challenges that you have, to see the church grow. And we're just about to plant our 11th campus next month. And we were going to plant another campus earlier in the year, but COVID hit, so we had to put a pause on that for a few months. But that will be later this year, and that will be actually in Indonesia. So that's going to be our next campus, or the 12th campus will be in Indonesia, which is pretty exciting for us because it means we can do You know what I love about it? You can do missionary work without the old-fashioned way of doing missions, which was to just send somebody, drop them in a country, and hope for the best. Everybody, hope you're good.
Yeah.
But to actually do it this way, where they're connected and they feel supported, makes a big difference. It certainly has to us. And I decided to do it myself because, as the senior pastor, here I am wanting to plant 200 campuses. I didn't want to sit in my ivory tower. I wanted to get out and do it myself, so that I could teach others how to do it as well. And what a great life change it's been.
That's so good.
What a great way to do it, too, is sending out a body. Instead of just sending out a couple of people and they're on their own to do everything, sending out a body where they've got each other to lean on, and they immediately have a community. I think that's a great idea and a way to do a successful plant.
Yeah, and I think a lot of, there's a number of, now that the multi-site church model has really become the model of this 21st century, I think there's a lot of people doing a very similar thing. And I think what it does, what I notice is that, back in the day when I was a youth pastor, we would plant churches, but basically we would leave them on their own. And so as soon as we got off the board, as soon as we got off the eldership and they're left to themselves, they most of them struggled. Whereas this model gives what I call the apostolic pastoral model. It allows someone to constantly feed those pastors. They don't feel on their own, and it just makes sense. One big house with many rooms, and they get the benefit of both things. I always tell our pastors, listen, you get the benefit of what you're building, but you also get the benefit of being part of something that's also building. We're all building, and you get two doorways into your campus, one that you created and one that we created, and it works pretty well.
That's so good. Pastor Ashley Evans, church influencers.church, a great place to go to. And if you're near one of the campuses, check them out. How has, COVID's affected us all, no doubt you guys as well. And your messages, no doubt, have been just full of encouragement and vision and direction, because that's who you are. How has the church, and when I talk about the church, all of us as the church, how have we shifted? Where do you think this shift is going to go? Because we hear all kinds of things. We're talking to pastors, different denominations, and most of them saying pretty much the same thing. How is this thing shifting out?
Well, funny, I had breakfast this morning with a bishop of another denomination, and just asking him how his crew are doing. And I think it's pretty much across the board. I think there's, the four types of people. There are those that are running back to in-person services, those that are walking back, those that are crawling back, and those that are not sure they'll ever go back. So I put them into four categories of people. And that means in the reintegration of moving past COVID back to in-person, you have to provide four different service options or types of gathering for people. So I think shutting down in the way, certainly for us, shutting down was difficult. I think opening up is more difficult because people have also got used to sitting on their bed in their pajamas on a Sunday morning. And then there are people who are what I call the never diers, who believe it's, we should all have the faith in anyway, or it's a hoax. One of the, there'll be different thinking,
right,
or I'm going to resist this. So you have really a polarization of the faith community between those that are fearful and those that are bold, maybe over bold, over fearful, and then some people in between. And it's a difficult chasm to breach.
Oops.
Uh-oh. There we go. Okay. There he is. Now we're back. Okay, we're good.
Internet off on my Verizon. Anyway, I think it was challenging to do it when you shut down. I think it's even more challenging opening up as you get people out of 23 weeks of habits back into in-person service. The cool thing is when people do come back in person, they go, "That's right, I forgot how good it was."
Yeah.
And same when you see somebody, you haven't seen them for 4 months, even though you might have seen them on Zoom. and then you go, oh wow, this is so much better. I thought doing Zoom was good, but actually in person is so much better.
Yeah, you forget about the fellowship and just being with people and worshiping with others. There's a spirit there that's
Totally
lacking when you're alone.
I think the biggest challenge for us, and I think for most churches, is to not allow the social distance to create emotional distance or spiritual distance. And I really think that's the challenge of this season is we have to social distance. How do we not allow that become emotional distance and spiritual distance?
That's good.
And we're working really hard to try to solve that problem because, it won't feel the same. I'm saying to pastors everywhere, don't call it church, call it an in-person experience, because it's an experience. It's not like we just put the pause button and came back to what we used to do.
Right.
And I think that creates a disappointment opportunity for people if it's not done, if it's not explained well and envisioned properly. And I just don't think it's easy, but we've got to keep pushing hard.
That is so good. Have you had the opportunity, had a platform to speak into younger, not just influencers people, but I would think that pastors on every level, no matter what the size, experience the same thing. There's got to be pastors out there pulling their hair out. No offense, Dan.
Or myself.
Yeah. But going, hey, what happened? And you nailed it right there. We didn't push pause. You can't go back. You can't just, like a DVR. So if you had an opportunity and is that basically what you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah. That's what it is. It's explaining to people, that this is not the same. And that's a difficult thing because if people have only experienced your church, they think your church has changed. When the fact is your church hasn't changed, everybody's changed.
Wow.
But then you have these other churches that, may decide, well, we're going to forget the social distancing. And there are some out there. And, that then sets up a scenario where I went to that church. I didn't really want to go, but I went there, and it feels like it used to feel at our church. And so there are, these psychological barriers that have been created just because of the pandemic that as a leader, you've got to address. As a shepherd, you've got to do it lovingly and realize every person has got a different point of view, and you got to support each point of view, even while you're encouraging people to learn to live life safely in the midst of the pandemic.
That's so good. Pastor Ashley Evans. We got to go to a break here in a second. Pastor, family good in Australia. I know that it was a hot spot, maybe still is. And maybe I misheard. There's not many folks that can, unless you're a citizen, can go in and out of Australia. How's it going there?
Yeah, well, so right now only 450 people are allowed into the country per week.
Wow.
Only through Sydney. There's one city that's a real hotspot right now. I mean, hotspot not compared to America, but compared to Australia.
Right.
And that's Melbourne and Victoria. That's a real hotspot. So they've gone to stage 4 lockdown, which is a bit crazy. And so you'll fine $200 if you're caught outside your house without a mask.
Wow.
On the spot fine. And then the other cities have pretty much, down to, maybe 50 active cases, 100 active cases. They've done pretty well because they're an island, so you can secure the borders and keep all the invaders out. And that includes me. So if I go back, I'm going to go into 2 weeks of quarantine.
Wow.
In Sydney that I've got to pay for myself.
Wow.
And that's in a hotel with everyone else who's come on that plane or come on other planes. And now they might be infected and I might not be infected, but after 2 weeks with them, I might be infected. So
wow.
That's what's going on. That's where actually the pandemic hotspot has broken out from, was bad hotel isolation techniques going on in Melbourne.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
Anyway, I think go break, right?
Pastor Ashley Evans, Influencers Church pastor, thank you for having a huge heart and leading strong. We appreciate you, and God's blessings to you, Jane, and the entire family and your staff. And we look forward to talking to you again.
Thanks so much, guys. Really appreciate you doing an awesome job.
Thank you.
Influencers.church, the place to go to. Check out one of the campuses. You can check out online, but whatever you do, in person or not, check them out. Hey, let's take a break. We'll be right back. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
This is Faith Talk Live.